We are supposed to imitate God. And just as God is compassionate, we should be compassionate. When a person is doing well, when a person's life is normal, stable, the favors that we do for them, hospitality, charity, whatever it is, it's a great mitzvah. But it doesn't compare to those mitzvahs that call for compassion. Somebody once said that you see these advertisements for the charity organizations on television. They help the poor, they save starving children, and they show these pictures, these horrific pictures of children in horrible condition, over and over and over in an hour's program. And somebody once wrote to the television station saying, you know, back off on these pictures. They're horrific. Why do you have to keep showing it over and over again? What do you... And he got a letter back saying, people suffer from compassion fatigue. If they feel compassion for 5 or 10 minutes, they get exhausted. And they tune it out. And you got to do it again to get them to feel compassion again. There's a compassion fatigue. So in order to get people to really do something out of compassion, you have to keep arousing the compassion because it slips away very easily. Kindness is a more common human characteristic than compassion. Compassion, real compassion, is hard to come by. Of course, we're not talking about our own children. But genuine compassion for others is a much more daunting, a much more challenging virtue than kindness. The difference being, kindness is a voluntary offering. I'm in a good mood, I am generous, I have a lot, I can afford to share, and so I do. That's me, self-generated. Compassion doesn't come from me. Compassion comes from the person who's in trouble. It's a strange combination of feelings. The guy's in trouble, got himself into trouble, misbehaved, found guilty, big trouble, messed up his life, blew it, and yet you feel like you want to do something for him. This combination of feelings, which makes up compassion, is a little harder to come by than the common available feeling of kindness. Here's the unique thing about compassion. You feel kindly towards a person who does not deserve your kindness. If you think he deserves your kindness, then you're acting out of justice. If he deserves and doesn't get what he deserves, well, that's an injustice. So if you're going to rally for this person because you think he is innocent, because you think he deserves, then you're acting on your sense of justice, not compassion. Compassion means you know he doesn't deserve. You feel that he doesn't deserve. And yet, you want to do something for him. What's strange about it is, in justice, if he doesn't deserve, then you shouldn't really be helping him. If he is very guilty, you should help him even less. If he is guilty of a horrific crime, you shouldn't help him at all. So the bigger the mess, the less he deserves, the less you want to give him. With compassion, it's the opposite. It bothers you that he's in trouble. That's what compassion means. You feel generous towards him because he's in trouble. So what if he's in big trouble? Then you feel more compassion. What if he really blew it? He is guilty of the worst. Do you have less compassion? No, more compassion. If he's in such big trouble, if he really blew it big time, that calls for intense compassion. Not everybody has that quality. And so we have a country full of people who are basically kind. I think it's safe to say Americans are kind people. There's a lot of kindness in this country. Compassion, not so much. Not as easy. It's not as natural. So, should we be helping people who are in jail? Is it right to spend money on people who messed up their own lives by their own choice, by their own poor judgment, by their own lack of self-control? Justice says no. Kindness says, what do I care whether he deserves or not? I give everybody. Compassion says, he is really in trouble. He's really bad, and that's why we need to help him. This compassion is the most godly of the three. Person doesn't have to be very noble or very refined or godly to feel kindness. Animals have kindness. You don't have to be very godly to have a sense of justice. We're all horrified when there's an injustice. But to have compassion, that calls for a certain degree of refinement of character, a certain godly impulse. So let's think of it this way. When a person is in trouble, when a person has committed a crime, what are we actually seeing in front of our eyes? What we're seeing is a human being who for some reason has lost his connection, lost touch with the part of himself that is human or godly, and has fallen into a less than human, less than godly habit or behavior. Which means whatever goodness exists in this person is now shattered or devastated by his own misbehavior. The split in this human being is horrible. Now, if a human being was either good or bad, we wouldn't have such a problem with it. There are the good guys, there are the bad guys, no problem. Good guys deserve everything, bad guys deserve nothing. Life is simple. So if a person says, I don't want to be good, I'm going to be one of the bad guys. Okay. You lost a number. You had 10 good guys, now there are 9 good guys. If it were only so simple. And we know it, of course, with our own children. It's not so simple because no person is completely bad and no person is completely good. So what happens when a person misbehaves? It creates a conflict within the person himself. The good within the person is now suffering. In fact, that's what regret means. Tshuva, repentance, conscience. What is a conscience? even when a person misbehaves and does something terribly evil, there's a part of him that at the time resisted and did not want to do this. The godly soul in the person was saying, no, I don't want to do this. I am not cooperating. And the person's evil side went ahead and did it anyway. As soon as the passion of the moment is over, and certainly when you're caught and you're sitting in jail with nothing but time to think, now, in the aftermath, the godly soul says to the animal part, why did you do that? I told you not to. I didn't want to do that. So the part that never participated in the sin or the crime is now chastising the part that did the crime. And what right does it have to be moralistic? It has the right because it never agreed to the sin in the first place. So what does it mean to help a person who has committed a crime? The entire purpose of creation, of life, our mission on earth, the reason we are all here, is to redeem the good that has fallen into unholy places. That's a very Kabbalistic concept, but it's a very real concept. There is goodness that isn't obvious, that isn't prevailing, that isn't dominant because of the ugliness that surrounds it. Our job, our mission in life, each one of us in their own way and in their own area, our job is to liberate, to free the godly potential that is imprisoned in the unholiness of this world. Every time we do something good, it liberates the holy from the confines of the unholy or of the non-holy. Every time we struggle with a moral question and we end up doing the right thing, that is liberating, freeing, extracting the fallen sparks of holiness and godliness from their unholy environment. And if we do enough of that, if we reach critical mass and there's enough holiness generated, then the unholiness disappears. It is nullified simply by sheer number and volume, and then we have a world of godliness. This is most obvious when we help a prisoner. A godly soul imprisoned by its own weakness, by its own internal enemy, compounded with the fact that it has now been found guilty by a jury or a court and is now imprisoned in an unholy place. If we can help a person under those circumstances maintain their holiness and eventually come out more holy than they went in, more godly than they went in, and if we can help a person who has come out, who is starting a new life and has all sorts of new potential, because when you're starting new, everything is possible, and we put them on the right path, and we help them find the right direction, that is the purpose for which our soul came down to this world. The Baal Shem Tov says there are two kinds of souls. There are souls that come down to the stormy waters of the physical universe. They come down to this world in a ship. And there are those souls that come down into this world directly into the water without a ship. Those who are privileged to be born into a ship are not better than the others. They have a different job. If you have a ship, your job is to bring the people in the water onto your ship. So reaching out to those who are drowning in the stormy waters that this life and this world can be, that is the ultimate mitzvah. And so, should we be giving a dinner to prisoners and those who help prisoners? Absolutely. It is the greatest, clearest, most visible, and most obvious expression of tikkun olam. Releasing the divine potential in places that don't seem to have much. But there's a lot. A person who has been through this sobering experience can rise to great moral heights and become an example for others if we just help, if we offer what we have, if we go out of our way just a little bit to see how godly a soul can be after that sobering experience.